I'm very pleased that we have a senior marketer from PepsiCo, Shiv Singh, head of digital at PepsiCo Beverages, to talk about real-time marketing at PepsiCo. Shiv, welcome.
Drum sound looking SOS.
So I thought I'd use this opportunity before you to pretty much tell you about something that I'm basically staking my whole career on. Now, I hope, as I go through this presentation, you'll be the type of folks who'll say, that's a no-brainer, you're not really jumping off a cliff. But if not, please text or tweet or IM me and tell me I'm really doing damage to my career, to that later. So real-time marketing, and this is what I'm going to talk about. Starting with this, 30 billion, very simple stat, number of Facebook status updates published in a given month. Probably a year from now, from 30 billion, it'll be 60 billion or 90 billion, or it'll take us into the trillions or something crazy like that. No surprise there. But you know why the stat stresses me out? Why it really, really stresses me out? Because as a marketer at PepsiCo, this is my biggest competition. And all I need to do is make sure that my Pepsi brands, whether it's Pepsi, Dew, or Sobe, or AMP, on like 0.05% of these status updates, and I know my job would be done. I'd be able to deliver the ROI that I'm asked to do in the digital marketing world, and everything would be good. But every day, that gets harder and harder to do. But this is the competition, and this is what I'm going to talk about. So real-time marketing, that's what I think the future of a lot of marketing is. I would say for lifestyle brands like the ones I have to work with every day, it's probably 50 or 60% of it, and that's what I'm staking my career on. So what exactly is real-time marketing? How should we think about this? How should we frame it up? To best explain this, or the way I certainly see it, I'm going to walk you through a little scenario. Now, this is not real. This is a bit of a dream, but bear with me. So imagine for a second you're in my shoes, and you're walking down Fifth Avenue. It's a lovely Friday morning, great day, it's sunny, summer's here, you're enjoying the day. And suddenly, walking towards you, you see Lady Gaga. Now, if you're in my shoes, it's like this is crazy stuff. I'd be like all excited, I'll be jumping up and down. Yes, I have a more, lighter side to me. But I'd be totally, totally crazy about this. Lady Gaga walking towards me in Fifth Avenue, in New York, in Manhattan. But now imagine something else. Imagine if she has a Pepsi in her hand. Dude, that's life. It's like I'd be floating at that point if she was walking down Fifth Avenue, walking towards me, and with a Pepsi in hand. Now, hopefully, I wouldn't have lost my senses completely. And what I would do, as I think any of you would do, is pull out an iPhone or a BlackBerry and take a shot, a photograph of her right there in that second. Capture that moment. But now's when it gets really interesting. Imagine if I take that photograph and I email it or SMS it or MMS it back to our headquarters in lovely, exciting Purchase, New York. And within a few minutes, there's a team that's sitting around in a conference room or in a special engagement studio, and they mash up that photograph into a couple of engagement ads. Ads that can run across the different social platforms, ads that can run in addressable TV, ads that can run everywhere. And imagine then, instead of first launching it, but they also launch it with 10,000 consumers who give them a thumbs up, thumbs down on how cheesy or how cool or how crazy it is. But then after that, it's shared with tens of millions of people. And just imagine if we went through this whole exercise, not in a matter of days or weeks or months, but in a matter of minutes, from walking down Fifth Avenue to this ad or this piece of content or engagement hitting millions of people. That, for me, is real-time marketing, and I think that's the future. And I think it really matters so much because I live in a world, and no offense to my wonderful agencies or my wonderful organization, because I know it applies to every agency and every organization, we typically go from strategy to execution over like an 8, 9, 10-month period. By the time something launches, it's yesterday's news. When we're competing with those 30 billion status updates being published every month, we can't afford that anymore. It's a different world. So let's look at this in its pieces. So real-time marketing, real-time insights. In my case, my insights were in the physical world, but I'm sure you've heard and are bored to death about online social insights and listening, so I won't bore you with that. Next key piece to it is having a real-time response. Me tweeting or someone tweeting from the Pepsi handle saying, Lady Gaga's walking down Fifth Avenue itself is really powerful. Third, having a content studio, an engagement studio. So when I send that photograph to purchase, instead of getting back a project plan or a work order or something, I get back the actual content is really important. That needs to happen in a matter of minutes. Next piece, real-time co-creation. We created this engagement unit. It could be an ad. It could be a conversation starter. It could be something that's distributed through DirecTV or Netflix streaming or YouTube premium channels, whatever it may be. But we need to test it with our consumers in real time. That's the co-creation piece. Next is the distribution. And Brian from BlackBerry touched upon this really nicely when he said that, we as brands have our own distribution engines today. And absolutely we do. And the distribution engines, in my mind, are both my own owned distribution engines and how I leverage my external partners. But that's brought to life and used instantaneously. And then the last piece is using this to jumpstart engagement, sort of as Adam alluded to. The last step in this whole exercise could be maybe it's a sponsored tweet, it could be an organic tweet, something like that, which then furthers conversation and retweeting and organic engagement. I'm willing to bet it would do better than that Volkswagen ad on Twitter. But that's what real-time marketing is for me in my head. And it's all surrounded by a very strong geographic as well as cultural frame. And I think this is going to get much, much more important. So why does this matter now? For all the reasons that I said. It's those 30 billion status updates that we have to compete with, or those zillions of tweets a day, or those offline conversations that are getting more and more removed from brands because we take too long to reach and engage our consumers or are too slow with it. So I want to quickly spend the last few minutes going into a short example of something that we did during Fashion Week. So we launched the wonderful Diet Pepsi Skinny Can. This was back in February at the Fashion Week here in New York. But we, instead of doing the good old regular stuff of a bunch of TV advertising and some outdoor advertising and holding a press conference, we thought we'd integrate as deeply and as meaningfully into Fashion Week as we could. So we did a couple of things differently. One is, yes, we actually did create our own content. We had a journalist, we hired a journalist to work for us or be a part of our team. And she basically had the best access that a journalist could have to Fashion Week because, we were also, we used our weight as a sponsor to make sure that journalists had a lot of access. And she was reporting live for our fans, for our readers, for our consumers about Fashion Week. But that wasn't the only thing that we did. We also then, at different Fashion Week locations, were aggregating tweets about everything Fashion Week and displaying them back for people who were interested in what was happening during the course of the different shows. Another key piece that we did was when we published something interesting, we'd amplify it via social engagement or online advertising or whatever it may be. We also used Twitter and Foursquare to give our consumers clues as to which were the best events to attend, and of course, which were the best parties to go to. So for this 1 week, we operated as in this blurred space between what a media company does and what a brand may traditionally do. And that blurring served us really well. So just to deconstruct it, a few pieces. We had our brand journalists reporting live. We had digital displays on location at the key shows, projecting back what the conversations were around the shows. We had third-party blogger content aggregating, so we were curating content as well. Fourth, we used social advertising to both ride the wave and give our content additional distribution, because as Adam mentioned, you have good content, and that's what matters. So we used online platforms that way, and we mattered, and people cared about us, because all of a sudden we were interesting content. Fifth, we were lucky. It suited us. This isn't something that we do all the time or any time. It made sense for us because we had a brand positioning which was all about get the skinny on fashion, get the skinny on pop culture. Very different positioning to a competitor in this space. It made sense to do this. And that's one key thing. You have to have permission and an appropriate brand positioning to play this way. And then last but not the least, we had an event that mattered. Who wouldn't be interested in Fashion Week? So that's deconstructing Get the Skinny. And all of this happened in real time, multiple posts during the day, multiple different forms of engagement. And by no means do I believe that like counts are a measure of success. However, I'm going to use that here. Sort of strange. But the point I really want to make is the accelerated growth in like counts was pretty amazing. And it was really because all of a sudden we had launched this brand, we had launched this product, we were having meaningful engagement because we were of value to our consumers, and that created a lot of attention and interest with our brand. So with that, a few thoughts that I want to leave you with. First and foremost, we've spent a long time figuring out how to buy demographics and psychographics and based on behavior and geo-targeting and all those wonderful 100 ways we can slice and dice audiences online. But a piece we probably haven't given enough attention to, and I think matters much more in the future, is buying based on trends. If Jon Stewart really matters even more than he normally does over the next 4 hours, I want to figure out a way whether for one of my lifestyle brands, it makes sense to buy against him versus just buying against an audience or on a publisher site. But that's something that's going to matter a lot more in the world of real-time marketing. The next piece that's going to matter more is geolocation data. The previous speaker touched upon this. Yes, it might appear to be hyped a bit. I would say it's underhyped. This is going to get much, much bigger in the future. Next, another key piece, what helps us, is we have new forms of research, whether it's with Twitter or with Facebook, and followers and fans. For the first time, I can truly understand what matters and what's of interest to my consumers in real time based on the kind of explicit interest they express in other things. So like, I know, for example, 18% of the Pepsi Twitter followers are really interested in Justin Bieber as well. That's valuable information. I had no other form of research that could give me that in such a mass way. And then think about better slide design as well. So I apologize for that. The piece I wanted to mention here is it also presents brand new exciting opportunities to mix the digital with the physical world. As a few of you may know, we're actually demoing this week during Internet Week. It's our social vending machine, which is really all about you go up to a social vending machine and you can get real-time content. You can engage with your social graph in real time. And it's a pretty cool adventure that we're on. So with that, a few final takeaways. One is to keep in mind that when you look at real-time marketing, don't forget the timelessness. So something that we did that worked really well for us and continues to do so is the Pepsi Refresh project marries real-time insights and behavior with timeless behavior trends and feelings around optimism and wanting to change the world. So that's another factor that matters a lot. So a few takeaways. One, ride local culture trends always. They matter more and more. Two, target hard support by psychographics and cultural groups, but also by trends. Three, engage in real time and meaningfully. Four, create a content studio to respond and participate. Five, build your own distribution, subsidize others discriminately. Not saying they don't go away, but think about it very seriously. Six, organize to go from strategy to execution in a matter of seconds. Seven, don't limit this to digital. As Laura Desmond mentioned earlier in the day, everything can become addressable, and we should look at the world through that lens. And lastly, acknowledge that real-time marketing has no geographic boundaries. And a very last thought to leave you with, I believe in a few years from now, this should be at least half of your marketing budget. Certainly if you're a lifestyle brand, should go to real-time marketing. Thank you.